Hi, everyone. It is Jaime Jo Wright here at Madlit Musings, and today we have with us Nicole Deese, all the way from the Great Pacific Northwest. How is it going, Nicole?
Um, Doing so well. We actually have a little bit of sunshine today. We had, believe it or not, snow in
Oh,
May. Yes, that is true. So
snow in May. Well,
you
you're in the
know,
higher elevations, so
yeah,
I guess that
yep,
makes sense.
yep.
Yeah.
Well, does it? Does it? We've had like 7 winters this year, so I think we're ready. We're ready for the spring.
Like
So
I need some sun. I need some green
I know,
leaves. Grass would be nice,
I know, vitamin D in any form would
you
be
know.
lovely. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll pray for that. We'll pray for
you,
green and no more snow.
you.
Well, you have a new book out called The Roads We Follow. And it is the second in what series? What's the series name again? I can't remember.
Fog Harbor Romance series.
Fog Harbor Romance series. That's right, by Bethany House Publishers.
Yes.
And it's a fun cover. You can hold it up for the screen if you want to. That'd be
Sure.
cool. The Roads We Follow. Look at that. How fun is that?
Yeah.
Books and a bus and a typewriter
Yes. And a map.
and a map. There you go.
A little bit
Yes.
like the Dora the Explorer map. I'm the map. I'm the
Map,
map.
I'm the map. I'm the
Yep.
map.
We all know
Oh, that's
that.
good.
I know. Moms in the early 2000s in two jeans,
Right.
right?
Yes, yes, that
Okay.
that and yeah, what was the fox's name? Can't even remember him now. He always stole the map.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts now. And Boots and all the well, we're not here to talk about Dora the Explorer.
No.
And by the
So
way, anyone listening, this book is not a Dora the Explorer
no,
retelling.
there's actually zero mention of Dora. I am sorry to disappoint. Sorry.
Swiper. Swiper the fox.
Swiper. That's right. Yeah.
Swiper, no swiping.
Hiking. Yep.
Oh,
There
wow.
we are. See, I started
Uh,
it.
I
So
know. Well, that takes us back now to like when our
it
our
does.
kids were actually cute and little.
I
Aw,
know. I know.
those were the days.
Those
All
were.
right. So tell us a little bit about the roads we follow.
Yeah. So The Roads We Follow is a story about a family named the Pharaoh family with a very famous mother who's now in her almost 70s. I think she's in her very late 60s, just about to turn 70, Luella Farrow. And she has 3 daughters, the
Mhm.
youngest of which is my heroine, Reagan. And Reagan is a secret um, writer, kind of under the cover of night, because her family is all very involved in the country music business in Nashville.
Okay.
Luella Farrow, the mother, is kind of likened to a Dolly Parton-ish type of persona and has done very well in the country music. And so they are about to embark on a 2-week road trip on a tour bus that's going to take them across the country for reasons that they think are kind of one set of reasons that are actually something else. And right before they leave, Reagan finds out that there's a tell-all that is being written about her family, and she does not know who this author is. And so she's going to have to kind of figure out this mystery while she gets on the bus. Meanwhile, there is a designated bus driver who comes along on this trip who has some secret reasons of his own for being a part of this journey, um, having to do with his own mother and kind of a life that was lived in the 1970s and 80s, and he has a secret that he's holding on his own. So yeah, so there we go. There's a little bit of
Ooh.
so Reagan and
Secrets,
my heroes. Yep, secret
secrets, bus
family.
trips, bus drivers, country music stars. That sounds great. Now, do y'all have to like country music to read the book? Like, what if a reader's listening like, "Ah, I hate country. This is not for me."
No, you do not have to like country music. The nice thing is, this book starts in Nashville, as all the best
Hmm.
books about music start. Um, but we actually go through many different places in the US, and I tried to pick locations that maybe weren't as well known. So we stop in like Hot Springs, Arkansas. We stop in Tulsa, which is a little bit obviously more known in Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Places in Texas, places in Kansas, so we go kind of all over the map, Oregon, Washington, up in the Pacific Northwest. I think there's a spot in Nevada, kind of up in the
Okay.
Ruby Mountains. So, it kind of takes place and takes shape everywhere. And Micah, the bus driver, is also going to have these journals as kind of fueling part of his reasons for being there. Um, and so we get to kind of see a lot
Mm-hmm.
in a in a short period of time in this 2 week road trip. So
It sounds cool. It sounds like fun. I love road trips. Road trips are always fun. So to me, they always make great fodder for a
yeah,
fun story because you're not just stuck in one area.
yep. I've told this story a couple of times, and so I'll just keep it short here. But
Hmm.
my father-in-law, kind of part of the reason that the inspiration really behind The Roads You Follow was that
Hmm.
my father-in-law, right before he passed away, one of the things that the four boys, he has, him and my mother-in-law have 4 sons. I'm married to the third in line. Um, was that when they were growing up, like they took so many cross country trips from Oregon to Georgia,
Hmm.
uh, where they were from. And so, but the same is true for my father-in-law. When he was young, he would go from, Georgia area to Oregon, and that's where he met
Okay.
my mother-in-law at a lodge and all of this stuff. And so, one of the things that he really wanted to do before he passed away was take his adult sons on one of those same cross country road
Oh,
trips. So, um, that's kind of what started to stir the juices in my mind of like
yeah.
how would this look to kind of have this legacy lived out. And even though no one passes away like that in my story,
Hmm.
it's not a that part's not similar, but
Hmm.
there is still this quest for kind of fulfilling this legacy in
Okay.
someone's life. And so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's really cool. I love that. Was your father-in-law ever able to do that kind of
No,
bucket list
it was
trip?
no, his
Yeah.
prognosis ended up being really quick, but the
Yeah.
4 brothers have talked, and they really have, they're working to make it a priority so that they can, one of them lives out of the country right now,
Okay.
but how they can, maybe pick a location and kind
Mm,
of travel to some of these really important places in their dad's life and,
that could be really
make
cool.
memories with each other. And I think it would just be such a beautiful tribute. Yeah.
Yeah, that really, really would.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of your books are known for having really deep themes, and not and like a depth of taking characters into some of the, I don't want to call them the darker places because it's not like, I don't mean like gothic, but I mean like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
deeper, more difficult
Deeper. Yeah.
places. Yeah, yeah. Now, does this book follow that same sort of trajectory, or where are we going to go with the characters as far as that's concerned?
Yeah. I think so in the first book, in The Words We Lost, I really focused a lot on grief. That was kind
Hmm.
of the primary focus, was this kind of grief journey that pretty much all the characters in the story were kind of facing a similar grief journey,
Hmm.
and all acted out differently because of that. Where this has a little bit of grief in it for sure, off screen, off page, but it's more that I would say the deeper themes are more sibling related, are more family related. There's a lot of dynamics about family, about boundaries, healthy boundaries versus
Hmm.
not healthy boundaries, kind of finding a voice amidst, a lot of pressures, and especially
Yeah.
this type of family that Reagan, has grown up in. There's just a lot of expectation and a lot of pressure and a lot of, kind of dictation on this is what your life is going to kind of look like. And so
Hmm.
it is kind of finding her place is a big part of this journey. And in Micah, he's actually a licensed psychologist for a school district. And so he has kind of this therapy background, and which was actually very, very fun to write him that way. But he's dealing with a lot of struggles and family secrets of his own, and kind of going
Yeah.
this truth that he thought was true, all his life, when he kind of is
Yeah.
is faced with a new revelation, kind of right in the beginning of the story. How does he really apply, kind of this narrative that he grew up believing
Mm,
one way, and kind of fit this new piece into the puzzle, and kind of shift, the narrative is more
right.
his journey. So I think it's family, it's there's obviously lots of romance, but the depth really comes from um how do we acknowledge truth? How do we speak about truth? Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? Kind of, there's a
Hmm.
lot of questions and tensions kind of within that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting too because I was talking to somebody the other day about speaking your truth,
Mhm.
and I was talking with them about the concepts of how speaking your truth can be different in different situations and have such a different level of intensity. Like, I'm a type of person, like, you can put me in a group, and if I'm not super close to people, it's actually easier for me to speak my truth and my convictions, not saying like,
Mhm.
oh, what you're wearing is disgusting, it's ugly. Not that kind of insulting truth, right?
Yeah,
But, like speaking my truth and my convictions, because if I walk away and they are like, ew, not really a fan, it it's
yeah. You just kind of
no
brush
skin
it
off
off,
my
right?
back,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then you take that and transfer that all the way to the other end of the spectrum. And speaking my truth with my dad
Mhm.
is 120 times more difficult. Like, I don't know how many times I've gone in, I'm going to say this, I'm just going to be honest. And then I'll leave, and my husband will look at me and go, and everything we talked about before we went in, none of
Yeah.
that
None
came
of that
up.
came out. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
hard.
it
It's hard.
is.
I think it's so much more difficult to stand up to the people that, are the most invested into our lives and vice
Yeah.
versa. Yeah, and that is definitely one of the main themes, in this story is how and when and where and
Yeah.
yeah, and one of the big conversations that my hero and heroine have probably the most is, is there a right time,
Mm,
to say the truth? And one of
yeah.
them is, well, it's right when you know it, like you just say it when you know it. And the other one's like, well, no, like you have to take into consideration like all of these factors, and I think that there's really the answer is like there's this balance in between,
Hmm.
and sometimes it is, kind to wait, for the other
Right.
person to be in a spot where they can hear,
Hmm.
whether they're just blasting them with, you know, this is the truth and love. So hear it now, it's like that.
Right.
Well, it's
Right.
not always the most loving, so how do we go
Right.
about doing that? I think that's
Yeah.
like you said,
Yeah.
it's such a challenge,
It
it's such a
really
challenge.
is.
Even when we
It really is.
know it's the right thing, it is such a challenge
Hmm.
to speak
So
it.
let me push you a little bit on this. No warning, let's go there. So why do you think it's important to speak your truth within family or your close circles? Because I'm thinking about people who have spent years and we've kind of masked the truth and we're
Yeah.
all surviving, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, maybe we're not healed, but we're not in a situation where we can't function either. So why would we
Yeah.
pick the scab and speak the truth? Tell us,
Yeah.
Nicole. Why is that important?
Uh, I think that, and believe me, like I'm right there, I'm
Yeah.
right. I'm 42 and, I'm just figuring out some things now, in my adulthood where I'm like, gosh, looking back at certain things that happened in my childhood or in my teen years or my early 20s where I'm like, wow, I spent so much energy stuffing down what really needed to come out,
Mm,
be brought into the light. And so my journey, um, it's kind of like, you can only be as free as your darkest secret. I don't know if you've ever heard
mm,
that.
yeah.
Think sometimes like, there's some real truth to that. And I think that by covering up or enabling other people, or which is, as an oldest child, gosh, like it's so easy for me to want to protect others so much at
Sure.
the expense of myself a lot, or the
Yeah.
expense of what I know is true or is difficult to say, but I would never want to hurt someone else, and so then I don't say it. But over time, it's an erosion,
Hmm.
happens inside of us, and I think that if I'm unwilling to speak out, I'm also at the same time saying like this relationship. I'm scared to say this how I'm going to say this, but like it's almost like, well, this relationship um, will never have the potential. Like I never believe that it will have potential to
Mm,
or to be deeper because
hmm.
at the same level of, I can only be as free as my darkest secret. It's like I can only be as real as the truth that I'm willing to share, right? And this relationship can
Wow.
only be as real. This relationship can only be as deep.
Yeah.
What I'm willing to give to it. And
Hmm.
so I think that there's such fear and vulnerability. And yet it's so often the thing that will completely release us to
Hmm.
have those deeper, more intentional relationships. And it's so scary because sometimes we're vulnerable and we're rejected, and
Right.
and so then it's like, well, how do you hold that? How do you deal with that? How do you tend to a heart that has been rejected? And I think like those themes are really in this story as well. And it's well, that person's hurting too. I
Yeah.
They're on their journey. I'm called to look at my own walk. I'm called to look at my own journey. I'm called to look at, like you said, the truth that
Hmm.
I'm living out every day. And for
Right.
me to harbor things and hide things and hold things back is me not being the most authentic, and me not, being engaged in real, true, right relationships. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's such an accurate description of how it works. And that vulnerability is the part that we get really scared about because we
Yeah.
don't know how the other person's going to react. We don't know how our family is going to react when we suddenly go, let's get to the root of some of these issues, or let me be
Yeah.
vulnerable with how I'm feeling. So,
And in a perfect world, everyone's, in it together, and they're
yeah,
saying, let's do this. Like, let's hear from you, and let's hear from you. But that's often not, the case. Like a lot of times these conversations come out of, heated moments or
right.
crisis situations, or something's been uprooted, something's been
Yep.
uncovered. So you're kind of having to work in the depth of
Hmm.
that difficult time. But
Hmm.
there's also so much fruit and beauty that can come out of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, that soil has been churned for that, for such a moment,
Right.
say, hey, this hasn't worked all of this other way. Like we keep hitting these same issues. Like it's time to do something new.
Yeah.
And I know that's happened in my own family. I know that that's happened in friendships of mine. It's like that definition of insanity.
Hmm.
Like you keep getting the same result, when you're doing the same thing
Right.
over and over again. And
Right.
so, man, if we could apply that, to our relationships,
Yeah.
it's time to do something a bit different,
Yeah.
and get it and get the fruit of what, good, honest, vulnerable, real relationship can look like.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited that there's a fiction book that's tackling some of that because sometimes it's easier to learn via someone else's
Yeah.
fictional journey.
Right. It's true. Yeah. It's so true. And be like, oh, you can feel all these things for this character, and
Right.
and then it's like, oh wait, do I have that? Do I
Am
need
I
to apply
supposed to?
that? Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
I'm supposed to do something
Yeah.
like that too.
Oh,
Does it come
there
with a
was
hunky hero?
right, yes. There was several convicting moments as I
Yeah.
wrote the story
Yeah.
of like, oh wow, I maybe need to tackle, some of those kind of conversations as well. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm always a little bit in an argument with God when I write a book because I'll try to purposefully pick themes and elements that,
Don't touch
I've
you as
touched
much.
on in my life, but they're not like super impacting
Yeah,
or they don't
yeah,
really wreck me. And then you're
yep,
halfway through and you're like, why, God?
yeah,
Why?
yep. Oh, I have actually stayed clear of certain things. So I'm like, I know I'm not ready to tackle that
I
yet.
know. I'm not
I
going
know
there.
I'm not ready to go on the deep dive that this is going to require. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
Okay, speaking of challenging writing though, so you did something a little different with this book than you did the first one in the series. The first one in the series takes place over 12 years, a span of 12
Well,
years,
yeah,
sort
the
of.
story the story takes place, like the main story takes place over, in the words we lost, a summer,
Okay,
the history between the characters is
gotcha.
12 years. Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
where this
And then what
one,
was different with this one?
so the big challenge was, this story takes place in 2 weeks. And that's really the meet cute, of my hero and heroine, which I was trying to think the other day, I don't think I've ever had to write a romance in such a short
It's a
time.
short time frame.
And there is like a tiny bit of history. I can't say too much, but there is a tiny
Hmm.
bit of history, that's kind of in the background. So they're not like total strangers, but yet they have
Yeah,
never, you know. So yeah, so writing something, that felt like it could be real, and got them really deep really quickly, into some of the messes in each of
yeah.
their lives and families and histories was a challenge, to
Hmm.
kind of try and tidy that up and wrap that up in a 2 week period on a bus.
On
So
a bus with their first
on a
meet cute. That's
yes,
rough.
yep,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was a challenge, but yeah.
Although, I was watching an interview with someone, and I don't know who it was. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was an interview on TV about a couple, and she said they met, and she said the first time we talked, I was like, this is the man I'm going to marry. He had the same feeling and response. So they decided to give it some time, and they dated for like 6 weeks and then decided, yeah, we're still in it for the long haul. And they ended up getting married within like 2 months. And the gist of the interview was that, this is 40 some years later and they're still together.
Yeah.
Like they really connected.
And I have two really close writing sisters in my life who both met and married their spouses within 6 weeks. And
Really?
which is just like so wild. And so part of that was like in my head, like that's not my story. Like I knew my
Mhm.
husband, we knew each other since we were 15.
Right.
I know you knew Nate a long time,
Or I knew
before.
him. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
like him for at
I
least
know
5 years. So,
your
I mean,
whole
we have a
story.
totally different story.
Exactly. Your whole story is so funny. Like you were like, he's the last man on earth. And then he was like, oh, well, actually,
Yes. Dear God,
um,
no,
yeah,
no.
I love that story. But yeah, so for Tim and I, we know each other since we were 15. And so then to hear the perspectives of a couple of my friends who were like, no, like when I met, my husband and when he met me, like we knew like something right
Hmm.
away. And I
Hmm.
have someone else close in my life right now who they aren't married yet, but they had the same feeling like their first
Yeah.
date, we were already kind of talking about like long-term goals and future plans. And, so I think it's really different for
Hmm.
each person. And I also think situation and timing and season of life
Yeah.
and commonalities, those are all the things that kind of make you go,
Yeah.
oh, could it be you? And
Right.
that's kind of
Right.
what the story. Like there's a lot that points to yes,
Yeah.
to them right away. So
That's super cool.
there's no time for enemies to lovers. Let me tell you that right now. Like it needs to be real quick. We could
Not in 2 weeks.
so
Because if
we
you
could
start
have
as
played.
enemies, it can guarantee you it takes longer than 2 weeks to transfer to friends, let alone
That's right.
lovers.
That's right. That's right. So I was like, we're gonna have to like pass all that nonsense really quick
Yes.
and just
Yes.
get into the heart of making them allies, pretty
Yeah.
quickly. So
Yeah. Super fun. Super fun. Well, the
yeah.
book is available now
Mhm.
and people can get it really anywhere books are
Yeah.
sold. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah.
And then if they want to follow you, make sure that they're in contact with you. What's the best?
Yeah, so I have a newsletter that goes out every couple months, just with fun, here's what's going on and book
Hmm.
updates and giveaways or contests or recommendations of other books that I'm reading. So be sure to sign up on that. You can find that link at NicoleDeese.com is just my website, or Instagram is where I'm most active. And then I also have a Facebook author page, which I think is just Nicole Deese author on both.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you
this
so
is
much,
cool.
Jamie.
It's been so fun having you, and we'll go on a road trip with you this summer in the
That'll be
book.
so. Yeah, you did. You also came to my house. You road
I
trip to me.
did.
So
Yes,
that was
maybe we need to
great.
do a recap on that. That
We
would be
did.
fun.
Yeah,
That
but
would be
yeah, if
fun.
you're interested in a different type of road trip, you can pick up this one.
Oh, the places books can take us. The Roads We Follow,
True.
everyone, by Nicole Deese. Make sure you rush out and get it today.
Thank you.